Hi, I'm Joe Amarino, the Regional Educator for Matrix in Boston, and I am just going to show you one of my favorite express balayage techniques that takes fewer sections, utilizes some back combing or teasing, and gets a really full coverage effect with a lot less work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the back into its first section, and that section I'm going to take from the back of the left ear down to the center of the nape. Turn her a little so that I can see. Okay, so that back of her ear. To the center of the nape. So this is going to be section 1. So it's really important that I back comb this properly so that it's easier to get out at the end. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but it will be easier if you do it this way. So I'm going to start with the teeth of the comb facing me, and I'm going to scoop forward. So nice scooping motion. I'll do it with my other hand so you can actually see the comb. Right, so I'm going to pull that hair out towards myself. This is not a super dense section, so I don't have to tease as much out of the way, so I'm going to start closer to her head. When the hair stops, or when the comb stops in the hair, that's where I will take my comb out and put it back in and then push it and pack it against the head. That way it comes out a lot more easily. If you force it, you'll have a lot harder time getting it out after, and she will be in a lot of pain. And typically our guests don't like to cry at the shampoo bowl. So I'm gonna pack that. Now you can see, I can see my hand almost through it. And this is what I'm going to lighten. So the lightener I'm going to be using today is our Matrix Light Master with an level 8 lift, so it lifts up to 8 levels. This is the one you can use additives with, and I'm using the clay freehand additive to make it a balayage lightener and make it that smoother consistency that spreads really well. Right? And I'm going to use my paddle in a couple of ways. I'm going to use my paddle as a paint palette, so I'm going to actually put my product on my paddle, and I'm going to take it off of my paddle because that makes it easier than dipping in a bowl back and forth and back and forth. And I'm also going to use my palette for a full saturation. So I've got a bead of product on the back end of my brush. I'm going to come in and I'm going to slowly work my way up. So I'm starting about 1 inch to 2 inches away from the top, and then I'm working my way up to add diffusion so that it's a really soft blend without me having to work too hard. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna marry them in the middle. And I'm keeping my pinch point the same until I decide to move on, until that looks good, because once I lose tension, there's no going back. And I'm gonna do full saturation because I want maximum lightness. So I'm gonna hold my paddle horizontally, and I'm gonna gently lay the hair on it. I'm gonna pick product up, and through those mids and ends, I'm gonna work that product through. I'm gonna pick the hair up, just do it again. And I'm gonna do it a few times to make sure that it's really nicely saturated. And then before I let it go, I'm gonna come back in and almost frost the hair again with lightener, because the more white it looks, the lighter it will get. If you see more hair than lightener, you're gonna get really soft lift, and it might not be as much as you're looking for. The reason why I held my paddle horizontally is so that I don't get a hard line underneath and create lines throughout in the back, because that can cause striation or stripes when you're blow drying. So I've definitely done it myself. You may have too, but when you're doing your balayage and you think everything's amazing and it looks beautiful, and then you style it and you're like, what are these weird faint stripes all through the back? It's because you had your paddle tilted towards you so you could see. I'm gonna take my next section, and my next section is going to go from the center of that first section up to right above the right ear. Show you. So it's the nape from that midpoint to right above her right ear. I'm going to tease this as well. I'm gonna take my comb. Again, I'm gonna do that scooping motion. So this is a much more dense section. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start a little further down in the hair, and I'm gonna, again, those teeth are gonna face me, and I'm gonna start pushing them towards the scalp. Now, my comb is stopped. It's not moving anywhere. Instead of forcing it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the comb out, put it back in, and just push. And I can do that a couple times until it's packed against the head, and now I've got this nice, almost translucent section, which means I'm gonna get really great saturation with minimal work, and I'm gonna cover a large area. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing as I did on that first section. And I'm doing big doubles and kind of filling in towards the center, so I get a good amount of coverage without tons of contrast and some highlight towards the top. Again, I'm starting a little below and working my way towards the scalp. One of the key things that we want to make sure we don't do is really cover the teasing in lightener, because that can lead to some blotchiness. So I'm going to marry those together. Hold my paddle horizontally, work that lightener through those mids and ends. And then resaturate the surface to make sure it lifts as much as I'd like. When you get to the tippity top, you can do a couple different things. I can take this as one big section if I want it really diffused and to not have a lot of brightness at the scalp. Or what I can do is I can keep breaking this down into smaller sections so that I have more highlights going towards scalp. So it just depends on what I want to see. I'm going to break it into 3 more small sections. So I'm going to do this section, then this section, and then the top last. On the front, I'm going to section her money piece areas out of my way. So I'm going to take the top right here, in the front, and I'm going to take the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to lift the head up and turn it so I don't get light all over myself. From that recession point over. And this is going to be where my money pieces come from. I have to keep in mind where she parts her hair. But I'm just going to twist this up nice and tight and get it out of my way. So now that section is out of my way, and I won't accidentally do it because it's clipped out of my way. Because I found that that's what ends up happening with me. I accidentally take that and then I have nowhere to put money pieces. I'm going to do what my good friend Karen Vanderbilt taught me, and I'm going to utilize the peaks and valleys to do the money pieces on the side. So the peaks and valleys on this mannequin are a little bit more subtle than they are on a human, but if you see, there's a point here, and then it scoops up a little, and then there's a point here. So those are both peaks. So that's what I'm gonna take down for the money pieces in the front, making sure to leave a space between them so that they're not connected. So what I've done here is I've fully saturated from a few inches away from scalp all the way down to the ends of the foil. And then I'm going to gently feather up towards the scalp so that it duplicates a balayage effect and fold my foil up. So what I did was I took from her front hairline, right above that money piece, across over the ear, horizontally for this first section. I'm gonna pack that hair out of my way. And I'm gonna balayage this. I'm gonna take another horizontal section on this fine side of her part because I wanna make sure that in this recession point, I have some balayage towards the front of her face. Nice and tight, and I'm actually going to take the teasing right out of the front so that there's teasing only on the right side so I can get closer to scalp on the left. Take a diagonal back section. You can tease if you like, it depends on density. I will, just to keep things consistent, just a little tiny bit of back combing. This can be my last section, or I can divide it into two, depending on what I want to see. I want to see some highlights up in here, so what I'm going to do is a triple on this one. And I'm going to, again, just change her head position so I have better visibility. So, unlike the rest, I'm not going to tease this final section because I really want to be able to get closer to scalp with it because it's right along her part line. And that's what she sees and what others see, and I want it to look as beautiful as possible. Locked out of my way. I'm gonna take those 2 points for my money pieces in the front and apply those like I did on the other side. So I'm gonna have those, I'm gonna put a foil behind them, and I'm gonna start saturating a few inches down so that I get some good saturation. And I'm fully saturating those mids to ends. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feather up with what's left on the brush towards the scalp. And what that's gonna do, it's going to replicate a little bit more of a balayage finish versus giving me a really, really heavy, hard line at her scalp, because we don't want hard lines when we're doing balayage. I'm going to do a triple on this. So I'm going to do the left, the top, and the right, the top, and then the left. Just so you can see a little better. So on this final section, I'm going to do right here, and right here as my 3 points for a triple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of cellophane or balayage wrap, whatever you've got. This is regular plastic wrap. As you can see, it's clinging together, my favorite. And I'm going to lay it over the back and the top of that hair. And I'm not really pushing or smudging, because if I really push down hard on this or pull it anywhere, it's going to drag the lightener around and then I'll have a cluster. So I don't want it to get ugly. I just want it to protect the hair behind it. Because of how I'm going to do her money pieces in the front. So the way that I'm going to do her money pieces in the front, I'm going to finally release this section here. And I'm going to come through and I'm going to take small triangles or wider triangles. It depends on what I want to see. So her part is right here. I'm going to start there because it's on the side and I want to make sure that I don't miss it. I need hair from both sides of her part or it's going to look really stupid when she has her hair down. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to lift it straight in the air and I'm going to start painting on the front towards her hairline. And I just laid it down on top of that cellophane. I'm going to take another triangle. There's hair in between both. So here's the first. This is in between them because I don't want it to be a solid blonde hairline. I'm going to do this one. I'm spacing these out a little bit. I want it to be a little bit more diffused and a little bit chunkier but classy. And I'm going to start again painting in the front. I'm starting about 2 inches away and then I'm bringing my brush towards scalp to diffuse it. So it's going to be really soft and gentle towards her face and then a lot brighter past it. Lay that down. And then I could do one more if I choose to, and I'm gonna do a little bitty one over here so that this corner isn't completely lacking when she puts her hair up. I'm going to take this little nugget right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another layer of cellophane, turn her so you can see her from the front. So she's got 3. Coming back. Sometimes I do 5, sometimes I do 7. It depends on how little and how much blonde I want to see. I'm going to bring that right around back and lay it right on top of those money pieces. And then process. See when she's done processing. As you can see, those money pieces from the front are through here, but right at scalp, they blend really, really nicely. So even if I come over to the side, you can see how naturally it blends, but it gives that really good pop right in front of her face. Same thing on this side. So if I pull her hair back, you can See those money pieces, that brightness. And when it's down, I'm living vicariously through her because I have no hair. When it's down, you can see all that brightness. Here are the money pieces from this side. And then the back. Looks really lovely too. And do you see how smooth the transition is and the blend? Like even pulled straight. There's no harsh lines. There's nothing that looks blunt. It's a really, really soft transition from the highlights towards the top into the ends. And I didn't even tone her because I didn't have anything to tone her with right now. So she's a little warm and raw, but it is such a smooth transition that it doesn't even look bad. And she's nice and shiny because I used the Length Goals Extension Perfector on her. It's my favorite detangler, and it's 450 degrees of thermal protection. So here she is in all her glory, living her best life, blonde as can be, balayaged with minimal time and effort. Thanks for joining.